Okay, so how to actually use a sigil. So assuming that you've designed your sigil, you now need to be thinking about how they actually work. Now, again, you're thinking about empowering that sigil to represent something and then feeding that energy. So if you think about solar panels, when solar panels absorb sunlight, they produce electricity. Yeah. So what your sigils are essentially doing is absorbing energy, magical power, whatever you want to call it, and then transmuting that energy to bring you what it is the sigil's programmed to do. Now we have a couple of different types of sigils here. You may have noticed some of them from the last video. So we've got our corporate logo for Mr. Fix-It Building Company. We've got our squiggly money magic type 1. We've got our letters for Bring Me Money. And we've got this one which I produced, which was a generic Bring Me Money one. Now, the one that I want to demonstrate is this one that I've just produced for this purpose. So this one was designed again because we're sticking with the money theme. So what I want to do is I want to explain different uses that you could use these sigils, or different ways in which you could use these sigils. So for example, if I'm talking about this one particularly, I've produced this sigil and I've used black paper, silver, gold and bronze pens, okay, these ones, simply because I'm thinking in terms of money. Now when I designed this, I thought in mind of money and I thought that I want it to bring me money. So I've put a pound sign, a yen, a dollar sign, a Bitcoin sign, and put them in a gold and bronze coin essentially. My artwork isn't brilliant, but that's essentially what was going through my thought process. Now you can make them as pretty as you like. I've just whipped this up in about 2 seconds, as you can probably see. Now what I would say the classical, or probably most common way of using sigils like this would be, is for you to go into some kind of trance-like state, whether it's an alpha brain state. You want to feed this sigil energy. So whether you keep it with you and every now and then pull it out and meditate on it and think this sigil will bring me money, that kind of thing, repetitive, you're building over time, feeding energy into this. This is a focal point, much like a candle, or much like in ceremonial magic or the summoning of spirits. You've got black mirrors, for example. They create a focal point like an altar. This is a focal point similar to what some people were using candle magic, where they charge the candle with their intention, light it, and then fix their gaze upon it. Instead of the candle, we're just using this. Now, the good thing about that, of course, is that when you create as your sigil, you could reuse it. So you could do this on a regular basis, keep this somewhere in a little notebook or something like that, and maybe once a week, particularly after you feel like you've got a little bit of a build-up of energy and you need to vent or something like that, then you're going to be pulling this sigil out, or the one that you created, and you're going to be feeding the energy. You're going to be focusing on it. Remember, the way sigils work is when energy is focused on them, the sigil will transmute the energy into what you've programmed that sigil to transmute it into. Okay, right. So this one, perhaps we might decide to keep and bring out on a regular basis and empower. This one, for example, may be a one-use thing. So if I've designed a sigil like this one was designed to bring me money, but it's a one-use thing. It is essentially a bunch of squiggles. What I might decide to do is to, unlike this one, which I'm going to keep, I may decide to just do a one-off energy raising ritual or ceremony or meditation, and then dispose of and destroy this sigil afterwards. So what I could do literally is take it, and after I've meditated On it, I might decide to set fire to it if it burns, and then I may get rid of it immediately afterwards. Now, a lot of people will recommend burning the sigil or destroying it in some way. The reason for that is literally because it's one of those things whereby you want the beginning, middle and end to your magic spells or rituals. So if you've destroyed the sigil, then that is essentially the end. If you've got something which is lingering around the house in a bin, a lot of people won't consider that to be actually finished. Okay, so a lot of people won't think of that as, you know, they'll think of that as incomplete. Okay, so with that situation, I would be spending a certain amount of time meditating on that sigil, and then I would finally destroy it. Much like when you meditate and focus on candles, with certain types of candle magic, you're essentially, the candle is burning down. So the end point for your sigil is the getting rid of it. You don't have to burn it in a cauldron like I did, but I mean, this is a witchcraft YouTube channel, so I mean, you might as well. Okay, so think of one use only, or something that you're bringing out on a regular basis, for example. Now, what I really want to talk about is the corporate logo idea. So all of these sigils that were created were designed to work and bring me money in some way, shape or form. Now, if you're thinking about the last two examples I gave, you were talking about you feeding energy to it. Now, if you put your sigil, no matter if it's this one or any other one, out there for other people to focus their energy on, you could ask them to, for example, then that's going to feed energy towards your goal. It's going to feed energy towards the thing in which you've programmed your sigil to do. Okay, now in terms of doing that unconsciously, some might say tricking other people into feeding your sigil. What a very popular one is corporate logos. Logos either in the corporate world for companies, or, you know, designs and things like that that you're printing on a t-shirt. Remember, where attention goes, energy flows. So if you have got a design, even if it's this one, for example, I might decide to print that on a t-shirt, and although I might not get a huge amount of energy from people mildly glancing and taking a little bit of notice of it, think of how many people will see that in a day or a week or a year. Every little helps, as they say. This, when you're talking about putting a logo in a corporation, now think of if you're incorporating sigil magic into your business, okay? So obviously businesses are designed to generate money, and they should, hopefully, if the business is successful. So think about turning your logo or creating a logo in this method, in which case the logo is also a sigil. So whenever people see that logo, what is that sigil designed to do? Now this one, when I created it, was designed for the Mr. Fix-It building company to produce money for myself. So adding that to the company that I own makes sense, doesn't it? It makes sense that I would incorporate my money-making sigil into the company branding that people see, and they've got an opportunity to hire the services of that. Now, other ways of doing it is that instead of making a money-making sigil and having that be the corporate logo, what you could do is you could create that logo or that sigil to react or attract a client. Okay, so if you think of the way in which the energy works and the flow of the energy, when you're talking about this kind of a sigil, when we created it, we're feeding energy towards it so that it can transmute that energy into something. Now, instead of making money, what if the sigil isn't designed to transmute that energy into making money or bringing love or whatever? Maybe that sigil is designed to channel that energy into attracting people, stay in my mind. So if I produced a sigil that's main purpose is to stick in people's minds, that obviously would not only be drawing energy from the people that look at it, but it would also be having an effect on them, okay? Now, when it comes to what I've mentioned before in the previous videos, because of course these are all designed to do something specific. Now, I have talked about repurposing existing artwork and creating just generalized open doorways. Now, that is both a good and a bad thing. Now, the reason why you would do that is think of how the technology works with these. Okay, you're essentially talking about feeding energy to it and then energy being transmuted into something. Now, you might not know right now what you want to do with that energy that's being absorbed, particularly if it's something like this, for example, that's out there in the big bad world. If it's your corporate logo, something like that, you might not necessarily know what you want to do with that energy. Also, you may know what you want to do with it at the moment, but that may change over time. So you may want to create something which is a bit like a Swiss Army knife that you can do multiple things with. So for that reason, what we're talking about is creating some kind of doorway system when it comes to that. So one way in which you could do that, for example, is just to, when you're creating your logo, is to think of it in terms of that is its purpose. Its purpose is to create a doorway and store energy, okay? So if I'm going to do something like that, and I created a new one, okay, so we're going to create a brand new one now, and the purpose of this one is literally to store energy that's directed at it. And my reasoning behind this is I'm thinking in terms of eyeballs, because people are looking at the sigil, and I'm thinking of little hands because I'm wanting to grab the energy. Now, the sigil doesn't necessarily need to be representative of what you're wanting it to do. And in some cases, particularly when it comes to designs like this almost looks like, if I add little eyes, that it's almost like a character kind of thing. That wouldn't necessarily be a very good idea. So it doesn't need to represent as a picture what it is that you're wanting the sigil to do, but what you are wanting to do is create some sort of shape that people can focus on. So if I'm using my various different colored pens, then I'm going to make this a little bit less okay. So we'll just add a couple of other things on here. Okay. So we've got a random thing that I've just created, and I've created it in order to create a link, an open doorway. Okay, so if I take some sort of design like this, what I could do is I could print it on the t-shirt. Now think of this as a doorway where energy is being sucked into or being pulled into. Obviously you wanted to do something with that energy. That isn't a particularly good design for something like that, is it? But however, if I wanted to create something a little bit more cooler, then I think of kind of like an energy swirl, something like that. So if I'm going to do another design, because you can just continue to play around with designs until you get the right kind of design that you would want. Okay, So say I'm going to create and use this one. Now this is, again, a doorway. So imagine I'm putting this on a t-shirt and I'm just wearing it out and about, and the energy is being fed to that t-shirt. That energy needs to be told, you know, you need to be doing something with that energy. You need to be transmuting it into something. Now imagine you don't know what you want to transmute that energy into, okay? Now what you could do is you could design and build some kind of, think of when, I like to use electrical references, having used to be an electrician. Think about the solar panel idea. So this is absorbing things, but what you're actually wanting to do is store that energy because you're not entirely sure what you want to do with that energy yet. So what I could do is I could take something like this. So it's a simple little box. And what I could do is I could take my sigil and I could pop it inside the box, or even draw it on the box, or even fold it up basically and pop it in the box. Normally what I recommend, if you've got a box something like this, then what I might want to do is I might want to redraw that on the top and on the inside. So basically this box is designed to harness and be a place where the energy that's being absorbed by your logo will end up. And what I want to do is I want to store that energy. So I'm wanting to put things in the box that I would want to be charged by that energy. Okay, so it's almost like a little battery / power station. Okay, now in terms of what, because we're talking about generic energy that's being picked up by this, in terms of what you would want to be charged will depend on what you put in the box. So of course at this point we're just talking about generic energy. So the purpose of this is to take whatever energy is out there and transmute it into whatever, you know, empower essentially whatever I want to put in this box. Okay, so if we went ahead and actually designed something that could be used for that purpose, what we could do, for example, is I could recreate this and put it on the top of this box, okay? And on the inside of this box. And on the bottom of the box. Now, what you will find, of course, because I'm using a pen and I'm doing it fairly, I'm not doing a particularly neat job, as you can imagine. Now, not all of these logos and not all of these designs are going to be 100% the same because I'm doing it freehand. Now, it doesn't need to be 100% the same. It just needs to be essentially different to what else is out there. Okay, so I don't need to make sure that it is 100% exactly the same, because obviously this and that at the moment is not exactly the same. However, it's close enough for this spell essentially that we're weaving, this thing that we're essentially doing, it's close enough for it to have an effect and for it to work. Okay, now what I've noticed some people do that are quite good at this is to create an original design on the computer instead of drawing it out. And then what they would do is they would then literally copy and paste it and then print it out so their design is exactly the same. Okay, now ultimately, you know, they are going to be slightly different. This one is different to this one and different to that one and different to that one, but they are essentially all the same design, if that makes sense. Okay, so what essentially I'm trying to do now is, as I make more and more of these, and again I could photocopy it or I could copy it out by hand or get it printed onto something on a t-shirt or something like that. If it was a little logo like this or like this, then I could literally just photocopy it and pop it on the lid. But essentially we're talking about, this is our power station now. This is what's designed. So anything that goes inside this box is going to be empowered by the energy. Now what I could do is I could do a mini spell in terms of, if you're aware of how spells work and the charging of magical objects. A popular one, of course, is to charge things like crystals. So if this hematite is charged and designed to bring me opportunity, and I carry it around with me, what I could do is I could pop that in that box to recharge. So whereas normally when you're talking about the charging of magical objects, charging of crystals, that kind of thing, you're charging it yourself. In reality, all you're doing is you're designing it and choosing its purpose, and then you're popping it in that box to charge, perhaps overnight. Maybe you have two crystals that are the same and you interchange them. So one day you put one in, and then the next day you take it out and replace it with another one. Now, the good thing about this kind of thing is that you're essentially talking about a power station, okay? You're talking about general energy. So if I technically wanted to, I could take this crystal that's designed to bring me opportunity. I could take this crystal that's designed to bring me love, and I could take this little key, which is enchanted or designed to open doors for me, so unblock things, and I could put them all in there, and although there are 3 different spells, 3 different things, they're all being charged by the energy. So they're not going to be reprogrammed, they're literally being charged, recharged. This is a self-contained thing. I don't really have to do anything with this other than make sure that the energy source is being put out there and that this box is being fed, essentially. Okay, so think about that in terms of obviously applying that, because most of the time what you're talking about, a lot of people will think of the creation of a sigil and then you focus your mind on that. People don't necessarily always think of it in terms of, well, this is a doorway, or this can be a doorway. I can absorb energy through this and feed on it and transmute that into something. Now, I know this box isn't particularly nice, okay? And the sigil I created for it isn't a great one, but I illustrated it and I did it basically on a whim. Now, if I created a different one, so say for example, I'm going to use a jar this time, and instead of creating a I don't know, instead of doing what I just did, so I'm going to do a variation on that. Okay, I'm going to do a variation on the one that I just showed you. So with this one, what I'm doing is I'm wanting to use the money type spell. So whereas this is one that you put in your own energy into, I'm going to recreate this, but I'm going to do it for a design that I'm going to put on social media or on t-shirts or that kind of a thing. So what I might decide to do is create some kind of sigil that I can put on a t-shirt. And say something as simple as that. Maybe it's as unique as that. Could be simpler, could be nicer, could be not nicer. The design of this, the purpose of this, is to bring me money. Okay, so what I'm going to then do with this design is I'm going to draw it on this little jar. Okay, like this. There we go. So it's now on my jar. I could draw it on the top or I could do it on the side. Doesn't really matter. Okay, but essentially, like with this one, this is a generic energy we're wanting to suck in. This is something specific, so I'm designing to bring money into my life with that. So wherever the energy is already being transmuted into bringing me money, what I want in order to tie the physical world and tie it all together is I might decide to put this on my money box. So I might start off this money box, okay? And what I might decide to do is, as and when money starts to manifest through using this sigil, is start to add money to this jar and continue to add things to this jar, okay? This is my money jar, it's my money. You'll see that when it comes to money spells and things like that, what you'll get is you'll get charms and spells like this that tell you to focus on what you want and then continue to add your money to a pot or to a box or something like that. Some of them will even say what you want to do is you want to take a magnet, because magnets attract. So because you want to attract money to your life, then you want to put that in your little your money piggy bank or a hematite crystal or something like that. People will tell you to do that, little spells to do with things like that. But think about your traditional money jar spell, which is essentially what this is, but I'm giving it a little bit of a kick because I'm incorporating some sigil work into that. Okay, so not only have I got the traditional money spell of adding a hematite or a magnet to my money box, yeah, and using crystal magic in that form of magical practice, that type of a spell, but also I'm now incorporating into that my sigil magic as well. And of course, the more people that see this and the more energy that gets directed to it, whether it be from me or from someone else, the more is going to have an effect on this spell, okay? And there we go. So, what I want to talk about in the next video is I want to talk about where things can go wrong. So the next thing isn't designed to scare you, but it is one of those things that we'll talk about some basics of where people go wrong with some of the sigil magic, and I'll give you some examples, and then we'll also talk about what can happen if you don't design your sigils properly or particularly well, okay? So it might be somewhat interesting. So stay tuned for the next video on that one then.